Howdy and welcome. I'm Mike from Board Games for One, and today we are reviewing Batman The Dark Knight Returns. But it wouldn't be a review without a quick primer. Batman The Dark Knight plays over 4 rounds of 4 turns each. You have a police tracker that helps you track as you go down. There are events that happen for every turn and at the end of every round. Every single turn, you will add certain enemies to a location described. In this case, it would be 3 mutants to anywhere in the downtown region. For each book, as this game happens over 4 books, or what we would call 4 campaigns, you're told to put a certain number here. For book 2, it's 8. What that means is at the beginning of the round, you have to put numbers that equal 8. So that means I get to pick how many of each enemy I want to put on which turn. So on turn 1, I put 3 mutants, or I've got 2 press, and then 1 cop, and then 2 mutants. You can change those up as you like. If you ever get past the 16th turn, you immediately lose the game if you have not yet won. As you can see, there are events that ask you to write on the board. Don't worry about it, it's totally fine. You'll be asked to add permanent paths like that, or write things like train, or write certain bonuses down, and that is totally safe because it all gets erased. It's one of the cool parts of the game. Things that you add sometimes will continue into the next book, meaning they're permanent. Other things are quite temporary, but let's just keep moving. You play as Batman and his allies. You can take turns to follow paths to go to different locations and land on one of the action spaces. Each action space allows you to do something. In this case, I could remove 1 press from anywhere on the board. You also can move on to, if you move onto a location and there's an enemy, you must land on that enemy and fight them or remove them. You cannot fight the press. You can fight cops, but with some negative effects, and you can always fight mutants. If there's more than 1 enemy, you may have to fight several. You also have to fight any that are adjacent. Let's keep moving up. It's basically a card game where you have a hand, and what you do is every round you draw 12 of these, and then you flip 3 over at a time at the beginning of the round, and you decide to add 2 to your hand and 1 to the event deck. The event is the bottom negative thing, so I would be like, all right, I'm going to add that negative to the event deck, and I'm going to keep these 2 in my hand. If it's fight, you add it to a fight deck that you draw from later and are able to use. The events go into their own event deck. Detective cards go into your hand. Your hand has no limit, so it can keep growing and growing. When you draw fight cards at the beginning of a fight, you can keep it in your hand as long as you want. Some of them carry into the next book. If you don't use them, others do not. You can see there are excellent card placement spots to guide you. So at the beginning of every round, you would put your round deck of 12 cards here, flip 3 face up, pick 2 to keep, take 1, place it here in the event deck. Same thing here, you've got your utility belt. If my recording table was a little bigger, I would show you. You put your Batman card, your cooldown card, ally cards, available vehicles, enemy tokens, and boss. So every book has a boss, like you can see here with the mutant leader. Well, maybe I'll just turn my phone now. You ready? We're about to get dizzy. Don't get too dizzy. Here we go. There we are, the mutant leader, and you have instructions in their own dice. You also have instructions for your standard enemies that you go against. You have vehicles that you can acquire by going to to Wayne Manor. You have allies that help you and move around the board. These are the cards with their instructions and a cooldown card. What this means is when you do a battle, you're allowed to take 3 dice from your tool belt. This was my tool belt for book 2. Take 3 dice, up to 3, you can do less, roll them, apply the effects, then you take however enemy dice apply, roll them, and you resolve the effects. After that, you place your dice on the cooldown card. You cannot use those in the next turn of that fight, as fights often have several turns. But if you have other dice, so it's worth it to get as many dice as possible through completing goals and getting skills, then you can use those. Those get placed on cooldown, and after that turn, these come back. So you just can't use the same dice 2 turns in a row, basically. You can complete different goals and missions in order to upgrade your dice and other things by completing whatever's on there. Each book adds different goals. You also have a health tracker. We're going to turn. Ooh, this is going to be tricky. So we've got grit, health, and sanity. If any of these go down to 0, you lose the game. Sometimes you're told when you take damage that you have to take it from a certain column. Most of the time you're allowed to choose which one you'll take it from. You have some other features on the board, but I don't think we need to go through those. That gives you enough for a how to play Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. Alright, so we've got an idea of how... Shh. Where? I'm sorry, that was a false alarm. Okay. Alright. Anyway, we are looking at The Dark Knight Returns, the game, and what you need to know about it, it is a solo... I swear I keep hearing them. It is a solo game by Cryptozoic Entertainment for 1 to 2 players. Really, it's a solo game with a versus mode that you can add on. And I have the game set up in front of you. You can see the box here, and I may bring out all the other elements. We'll see here. I want to keep this quick for you. Oh. As you can see, as far as artwork and production quality, the artwork is absolutely beautiful. As far as the graphic design making sense with the artwork, it's fantastic. You've got, my table's too small for this. My normal gaming table, no, this is just my recording table, it's too small. But they've got slots that tell you where to place your cards. Like you place your Batman card here, your cooldown card there, your allies, your available vehicle, your vehicles that aren't available, your goals, your traps, your event deck, face up. The graphic design is very high quality, so that you really just don't have to memorize much. You really don't have to memorize anything, because you've also got a round sequence card that is fantastically done, as well as the fight sequence. So you may have to refer to the rule book like your first play. After that, you've got it down, and I'll show you the rule book there. But as far as production quality, the board's good quality. I don't have any issue. There's maybe some creases from where the board folds, so that's not an issue to me personally. I mean, it's a board that folds, it's going to crease, but whatever. The cardboard tokens are fine. This is the standard version. I intentionally did not buy the deluxe. I'm trying not to buy deluxe stuff unless I'm like a super crazy fan, because the regular is enough. So you have cardboard standees for your characters like Commissioner Gordon, and your vehicles, or that's the Batarang actually. You got Batman here, you've got little cardboard standees for your bosses, and I am totally fine with that. They're thick enough, it's really not a problem. All of the cardboard pieces are fine. Let's look at the dice. So the dice, you can see there are cool Batarang dice. They're actually shaped like Batarangs, which means there are only 4 sides with results. So a lot of times you have a 50-50 chance of one result. Now, if you roll it like this, the only issue is sometimes they don't roll maybe as well as a regular dice. They might, I don't know, but the shape might not. So I prefer to roll them one at a time, sideways like that, and then I get a nice random result. But you can shake them up, it's no problem. That's only some of the dice. And the cool thing is you start out with 6 Batarangs, but you kind of level up by completing goals, and you get to replace these basic Batarangs with more advanced Batarangs that have special abilities. So that's how you get like special skills, is you gain dice. You also gain allies like Robin, who introduce their own set of dice. They also can upgrade by completing these goal cards, these missions that you complete on the board. They're totally optional, but by doing that, you upgrade your dice and your skills or abilities. Pretty cool. So there's several different allies. There's Robin and Gordon, I think Superman later, but just giving you an idea of the components, it looks good. You already saw the layout of the board and all that. As far as the cards, they're good stock. I do the bridge shuffle. I know that makes some people terrified, but I like this game and I'll be keeping it, so I don't mind doing that. All right. As far as the theme, does the theme come across as you play? Yes, the theme comes across plenty strong. Not just visually with the using the actual comic style from Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. I always want to say Return of the Dark Knight, but Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. But the theme comes across in the abilities used in your detective cards, and of course the things you can use in your fight deck as well, to following the story of the villains and the villains' abilities, and the idea that the cops, like if you fight cops, there's a negative consequence. You cannot fight the press. Batman doesn't fight the press. You can fight mutants. Commissioner Gordon chases away the press. Robin can go anywhere on the board because she's super agile and she's kind of stealthy, so she like stealth takes the mutants away. So as far as the theme goes, fantastic. Now you are not following a major story campaign, and that there's not like a comic to go along with it or anything like that. It's just 4 different books, and each one has a different adversary that you go against with a little bit of flavor text involved. Really, it's enough to set the story. So you're not doing character development or anything like that. Most games are not. There's very few that do something like that. I would love to see it. But no, theme comes across plenty strong. You'll see it in my playthrough, so you can see all this for yourself instead of me just yammering on and on about it. Okay, we got that. As far as the mechanics, the gameplay, look, the only issue, let's get straight to the negative. The only negative that I've found to this point is possibly 2 things. One of them is every now and then I'll run into an ambiguity, and that may just not be a familiarity with the rules, but if it happens to me, it may happen to you. And I don't know that there's really an ambiguity. But certain cards, like with any game with a lot of cards, there are going to be certain points where I'm like, well, I'm not really sure if that can happen. Like that happened with me with the Bat Tank. I wasn't sure if the Bat Tank could take out a boss. And honestly, it doesn't say it doesn't, so it must be able to do it. So if you just read strictly by the cards, actually the ambiguities are probably less. But you might run into them. Let me know if I'm the only one that's happened to or not. And if this review is helpful, please be sure to give me a like. That does a lot to help other people find these reviews and this hobby. I appreciate it. Okay, so as far as those mechanics, as far as building your hand with the deck, I love the card drafting, that you lay out 3 cards, keep 2, and 1 goes into an event deck that gets used against you. So you're trading off the top, the good top, for the bottom bad half, the good top half versus the bottom bad half, through the card drafting to build your hand. I like that your hand does not have a limit, and that you can carry things over into the next book. So you can play book 1 and conserve cards so that you can do better in book 2, and likewise into book 3 and then to book 4. So you can save skills. You can prepare 1 book ahead of time in order to be more successful. And if you don't, you're probably going to get wiped out. The game is punishing, it's difficult, it's challenging. That's not a negative. But the only other negative might be the save system isn't, it's not difficult actually, but what you do to save the game between books, since you play it in order, you play book 1 and then you pick up in book 2 the way you left the board. You know, it's not a reset. So if you have left enemies on the board, they go into the next round. If your HP is low, you go low into the next round. Wherever Batman and your allies are, that's where they are for the next round. So lots of stuff to consider. But to save, what you do is you mark, so like if there's a cop token here, I would put like C for cop, or if there's a mutant token, I would put M, or if there's press, I would put a P. So I would do something like that, and you would just do that for each token. That way when you put these away, you fold the board up, you open it, and you can see where to put stuff. The negative to that is it probably won't happen, but I'm just a little afraid of the stuff wiping off. So, you know, it's a little bit of work to save. I would say it's better if you take it out and you plan on playing all 4 in a row. But it is possible to save. Or you can take a picture and set, but really that's complicated. So I would say the save system isn't the simplest, but they did a good job. I don't have a better idea for it, but just know that there is a little bit of time involved if you do that. The pen thing is awesome. I love being able to draw paths like as a thing, like you draw permanent paths or you draw permanent benefits or permanent disadvantages. I really like that it's like a legacy type game, a legacy-ish. It's not legacy because you don't destroy things, but it's a legacy-ish where the game changes permanently as you go. So that's cool. I love the drawing. That's fun. So as far as mechanics, watch them in the playthrough. Decide for yourself. Difficulty level, already went over that. As far as different strategies, there's plenty of different strategies. You can go heavy on being defensive. You can go heavier on being offensive. Or you can go more towards stealth if at all possible. But you do have to do battle in order to win the game. So you can be stealthy, but you've got to get some battle there. But using your allies and things like that, you can employ several different strategies to win. So replayability. Replayability, if you make it through all 4 books, that's going to take more than one playthrough. So you're talking about 4 games there of an hour each. Probably not going to win. If you do, then there's hard mode to go through after that. Then there's, if you enjoy it, you could play through again, just trying different strategies, trying a different build. But there would be possibly be some limit to playthroughs. But I think there's enough in the normal mode and the hard mode, and then if you want to include the versus mode, that you're getting what you're paying for. So this game is about $60, $50 to $60 for the base game. If you have any questions about that. There are different bosses. They all have their own different cards. They all have their own different dice and abilities that affect you. And there's some kind of secret at the end if you beat book 4. I don't know what's in the envelope because I haven't beaten book 4 yet. But this is after about 3 to 5 playthroughs. What have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4 playthroughs for this that I've gone through the first 2 books. I haven't made it to book 3 yet, but I think I understand the strategy well enough that I should be able to do that next time. So that's it. I have nothing else to cover on this. If you have played this, that's it. You just don't know what it's like once they've found you. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I better get out of here. I am not safe. This is not safe. So yeah, I need to go. I I love you all. I have a playthrough of we gotta go fast. We're running out of time. I've got playthroughs coming up that I either posted before or after. I don't remember and how to play of this. One of those is gonna be linked to here. I gotta go. I gotta go now.